Monday Night Football. Shocking season-ending injury to star player. That Super Bowl hopeful puts a lot of their eggs in that person's basket. Aaron Rodgers week 1, Nick Chubb week 2. We were wondering in week 1 if it was a career ender for Aaron Rodgers. You heard from Rodgers post-surgery that he intends to keep playing, it appears, if not speed bridging his way back in January. Nick Chubb, what can you tell us about the injury that he suffered on Monday night as we're sitting here Wednesday? Any extra news on that, Tom?
Well, obviously, Rich, when you see the replays, and even if you avoided the more gruesome ones that apparently the international audience got, you knew that it was a bad injury. The question really is whether or not he had a full dislocation or a partial dislocation. Either way, you're talking about not playing for the rest of the season, and that's just a matter of kind of what is the road back going to look like. To my knowledge, he's not yet undergone the surgery, and there's always some parts that in the surgery, they sort of make some of those determinations. And so we'll continue to stay tuned. It's obviously a horrific injury. And for the Browns, who certainly Nick Chubb is a big part of what they do, they had to, I don't want to say scramble because you always have contingency plans, but they had to figure out what they wanted to do. They definitely were, checking around on who potentially might be available. But ultimately, within the past hour here, they were able to sign Kareem Hunt to a new deal. It's 1 year, up to $4 million. A guy who knows that system very well. He scored a bunch of touchdowns for him over the past 4 years here. It still sounds like Jerome Ford is going to get a big part of the workload, which I'm sure is good news for everybody playing fantasy football who blew their entire free agent budget on him in the past 48 hours here. But Kareem Hunt is, a guy who they think can step right in. And so he came in, worked out for him on Tuesday. He had a bunch of opportunities. He had a handful of different offers over the past couple of months here. Just was waiting for the right opportunity. There was no way you could foresee that it would involve this, Kareem Hunt going back to a team that, remember, he requested a trade from at one point. Wanted his contract upgraded, didn't happen. Goes into free agency, waited it out, and now here it is. The big opportunity comes right back there in Cleveland.
Yeah, and now he's, as they say, plug and play, and Cleveland no doubt will plug him in against Tennessee in one of those, paint swapping affairs. I'm sure he will get some touches right there. What about Jonathan Taylor? That was a first blush thought. Obviously, he's got 2 more games left until he can return. But what about Jonathan Taylor?
Here's what I would tell you, Rich, right now about Jonathan Taylor. He's in the building every day doing his rehab work. From what I've been told, he looks really good doing that rehab work. He may not be 100% right now, but certainly he's getting really close to being ready to be back on the field. His trade request has stood for over a month now. The Colts asking price has not changed. And there is certainly a scenario where Jonathan Taylor is back in a Colts uniform come week 5. Now, I would anticipate that, we're right now, as we're talking here, we're about 11 days out from his PUP stint potentially coming to an end. So I would think this next week here is where, if there's going to be any action on the trade front, this is where it would happen. You certainly understand where Jonathan Taylor does not want to play for the low number he's on this year. Maybe at some point there's a possibility of a bridge deal that could happen, that could bring him back and get him a raise and get him a little bit more security to get back onto the field. Those are all conversations you're going to have. And, as we've seen, if anybody was going to do it, you'd think the Cleveland Browns with $34 million in cap space and losing Nick Chubb might have had an interest there. From what I understand, that was not the direction that they were looking at this point. They like what they have in Jerome Ford. They've obviously got another guy they like in Kareem Hunt. Does somebody else step up to the table here? It might take an injury for that type of an offer, both financially and in terms of trade compensation, to come about. But what I can tell you is I fully anticipate we're going to see Jonathan Taylor back on the field at some point in the near future here. And there is a possibility that is back with the Colts.
Well, you could make the case, Tom, just, supposing from afar as we are right now, although you are the NFL insider here, that the timing wasn't right for the Browns. They needed someone right now. They could not wait even 11 more days for his PUP to expire or wonder what he's like physically. Like, they needed somebody now, and they have a plug and play in Kareem Hunt. I'm just thinking back to about a month ago when the Colts pulled the plug on the we're going to trade Jonathan Taylor, or you have the opportunity to be traded Jonathan Taylor part of our summer. The Dolphins and the Packers were the ones interested, one that we were supposing, one that we were surprised by. I couldn't imagine they'd be interested in him right now. Maybe the Packers, depending on Aaron Jones is feeling, but right? I mean, don't you think those takers would be gone in terms of what his trade market looks like right now, Tom?
Well, even the Packers, I mean, I believe that Ian Rappaport reported, our colleague, that the offer from the Packers was something like 2 mid-round picks. And my understanding was it was nowhere close to what the asking price was going to be for the Colts. If you're Brian Gutekunst and you're looking at that situation, you're going, hey, if he's going to be available for relatively cheap, yeah, why wouldn't we be in on a really good football player? But the Colts have wanted upwards of the Christian McCaffrey compensation. So you're talking about a first-round pick or the equivalent of a first-round pick. It's a hard sell. I mean, in Miami, Raheem Mostert's off to a really good start this season. They obviously got a little bit banged up with Savon Ahmed getting nicked last week. They're kind of getting Devon Achane involved as well. If there's an injury, again, certainly they may come back to the table. But what's been really interesting about Miami, because they've been connected to, I think, every running back that's been available, like the entire offseason, they never really made that top of the market type of offer to Dalvin Cook. They never really made that type of compelling offer the Colts would have taken to move Jonathan Taylor. Mike McDaniel comes from San Francisco, and obviously the 49ers have the highest paid running back in the NFL, Christian McCaffrey, right now, but they've also used a lot of different backs. Scheme matters to a team like the Miami Dolphins, and they feel like they've got guys who can run that scheme really well.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.